Say who you are. Really say it in your life and in your work. Failure is a badge of honor. It means you risked failure. Your writing will be a record of your time. It can't help but be. But more importantly, if you're honest about who you are, you'll help that person be less lonely in their world. I think we try to be experts because we're scared. We don't want to feel foolish or worthless. We want power because power is a great disguise. The whole point of writing something is to have people experience it. But I think the relevance is the relevance. You know, it's about relationships, and it's about how we think about people and when they struggle, what that's about. And I think that's eternal, you know. Let's not worry about what it looks like. Let's not worry about failure. Failure is a badge of honor. It means you risked failure. And if you don't risk failure, you're never going to do anything that's different than what you've already done or what somebody else has done. And just know that's the choice you're making when you won't put yourself at jeopardy like that.
I'd be remiss if I didn't talk to you about one of my all-time favorite films, which is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I feel like that movie, with the creation of social media, has actually almost become more relevant, because now there's this thing that people do if they're in a relationship and they have a bunch of pictures online on Facebook or whatever. If they break up, the first thing they go do is immediately erase all signs that and so which every time that if it's ever happened to me or I hear from friends of mine, I think of Eternal Sunshine. Do you feel like that movie has become more relevant since its release, or have you thought about that at all?
Well, I didn't know about this thing that you just talked about. I don't have a social media account, so I haven't seen that. But no, I think I guess that's new. But I think the relevance is the relevance. You know, it's about relationships, and it's about how we think about people and when they struggle, what that's about. And I think that's eternal. You know, that's always going to be that case.
How do you write? Is it a compulsion, or is it like a structured exercise where you say, I'm going to sit down and write for 3 hours today?
It's neither. It's hard for me. I'm not disciplined that way. I wouldn't say it's a compulsion. I would say it's my job, and I have to do it to pay my mortgage, and I try to do it in a way that feels, I like doing it sometimes, and I can't think of anything I'd really rather do, but it's hard. I feel like when I'm doing it, I would like it to be something that's meaningful and that feels honest to me. I don't want to do something that puts what I feel is garbage into the world. So in that sense, it's important to me. But it's not like this joyous experience or some sort of I don't think of myself that way. I think of myself sort of staring off into space a lot, or looking at stuff online while I'm trying to write. It's mostly what it looks like. People are starving. They may not know it because they're being fed mass-produced garbage. The packaging is colorful and it's loud. But it's being produced in the same factories that make Pop-Tarts and iPads, by people sitting around thinking, what can we do to get people to buy more of these? And they're very good at their jobs. But that's what it is you're getting, because that's what they're making. They're selling you something. And the world is built on this now. Politics and government are built on this. Corporations are built on this. Interpersonal relationships are built on this. And we're starving, all of us. And we're killing each other. And we're hating each other. And we're calling each other liars and evil because it's all become marketing, and we want to win because we're lonely and empty and scared, and we're led to believe winning will change all that. But there is no winning. What can be done? Say who you are. Really say it in your life and in your work. Tell someone out there who is lost, someone not yet born, someone who won't be born for 500 years. Your writing will be a record of your time. It can't help but be. But more importantly, if you're honest about who you are, you'll help that person be less lonely in their world. Because that person will recognize him or herself in you. And that will give them hope. And it's done so for me. And I have to keep rediscovering it. Its profound importance in my life. Give that to the world, rather than selling something to the world. Don't allow yourself to be tricked into thinking that the way things are is the way the world must work, and that in the end, selling is what everyone must do. Try not to. Do you. It isn't easy, but it's essential. It's not easy because there's a lot in the way. In many cases, a major obstacle is your deeply seated belief that you is not interesting. And since convincing yourself that you are interesting is probably not going to happen, take it off the table. Agree. Perhaps I'm not interesting, but I am the only thing I have to offer, and I want to offer something. And by offering myself in a true way, I am doing a great service to the world, because it is rare and it will help. I don't like to talk about the themes of anything that I write, and the reason is because you do something, and when you're done with it, when you make a film or a piece of art, it's then an interaction between the person who's viewing it and the piece. And to not allow that process to take place by saying what this thing is, it limits that possibility of interaction. And I specifically write things so that hopefully it's layered enough that people can come away with separate and individual reactions to it. It's always great to hear different things because it means that the piece is successful. It's not sort of this kind of constricted piece with a message at the end. It is an open-ended conversation with an audience. And yeah, I love that with anything that I do. The whole point of writing something is to have people experience it. And if I sit here and say, well, this means this and this means this, not only is it pointless because it either means that to people or it doesn't, it also gets in the way of people having their individual experience of the movie. So I try to put enough of in there so that people can interact with it on an individual basis. So my sort of pontificating on it would be meaningless. There's your interpretation, and your interpretation is your interpretation. It's not. I don't even have a right to question it. I mean, in my mind, it's yours. I did what I did, and you do what you do in watching it.
Oftentimes, whenever a filmmaker has ambiguous aspects to a story in their film, they don't want to over-explain or answer questions to the audience. Oftentimes, I've been told, I kind of want the audience to figure it out for themselves. But I'm sort of curious, whenever you have an actor on the set, do you feel obligated to explain it to them? If they come to you and say, Charlie, I don't understand this and I need you to explain it to me, do you then feel obligated to explain the ambiguities?
Yeah, I'll explain to them what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the interesting thing about that is we can then develop, even within that, they can have their own ideas and we can sort of move into something else. Because they're my collaborators, they're not an audience. I definitely would tell them what I'm thinking. The questions and the discussions that I have with the actors are about their characters and, what's going on at this moment in a very human way in the scene. They're not philosophical, what does this mean kind of thing. They're, what's going on between, Caden and Adele at this point in the movie. And that's a very straightforward, I mean, it's easy, but it's a straightforward discussion. Think about your reaction to me. Think past it. Why do you have that reaction? Why do you react this certain way to certain things? What does your reaction have to do with your wants? How does it correlate? How would your reaction to what I'm saying change if I were older, younger, female, a different race, British? What does it mean about you that it would change? What does it mean about the subjectivity of your opinions? What if I was me but had a different demeanor? What if I was more confident, less confident? What if I was more effeminate? What if I was less effeminate? What if I was drunk? What if I was on the verge of tears? Think about all the assessments, all the interpretations that occur with each interaction. Think about all that you bring to each encounter. Multiply that by all the people here. How much is going on in this room? And how do we weave that into a movie? The challenge of multiple points of view forces us to come up with new solutions, to throw away conventional approaches. Movies tend to be very concrete in their construction of events and characters. It's a tricky medium in which to deal with interior lives, but I think it's really a great medium for it. Movies share so much with dreams, which of course only deal with interior lives. your brain is wired to turn emotional states into movies. Your dreams are very well written. I know this without knowing any of you. People turn anxieties, crises, and longing, love, regret, and guilt into beautiful, rich stories in their dreams. What is it that allows us the creative freedom in our dreams that we don't have in our waking lives? I don't know, but I suspect part of it is that in our dreams we are not constricted by worry about how we will appear to others. It's a private conversation with ourselves. And if we're worried about it, this becomes part of the dream. I think if we were better able to approach our work this way, the results would be different.
And the second viewing of this was almost like watching a completely different films, because I knew certain things that I wanted to look for. There were things I wanted to listen to closer. I'm sort of curious, whenever you are writing and directing a film, to what degree are you focused on our first viewing of it? And to what degree are you focused on subsequent viewings, things that we might catch that second, third, or fourth time around?
I'm interested and focused on all of the different viewings. That I like to sort of pepper it with enough stuff so that it resonates in different ways at different times. And depending if you've seen it once or you find new things or you're in a different point in your life, that you might have a different reaction to the movie, you know. So that's my goal. So I'm always thinking about all of that so that it sort of feels expansive. There's a lot of things that happen in this movie that are not probably witnessable the first time, and you know, because there's a lot of stuff that kind of on the surface that you need to pay attention to. But I think if you watch the movie again, you'll start to see other things in the background, which have their own resonance, and are intentionally placed there.
I did. I saw it the second time, and I was watching a whole new layer of stuff. So it's really interesting.
I had an impossible time figuring out how to get into that business that I wanted to get into, and I was 30 when I decided, okay, I'll try to work in TV. It wasn't something I really wanted to do. It was with an eye toward maybe getting people to know me and having a chance to write screenplays. So that was the pivotal moment, deciding this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get a job on a TV show, and I was very sort of focused and pragmatic and tenacious in a way that I hadn't been, because it was kind of like a last-ditch effort for me. I thought at the time I was answering phones in an art museum in Minneapolis, and I was making like, you know, $6 an hour, which was good for me, and it was good for me, and you know, that was it. You know, I borrowed money. I borrowed $3,000, and I went out to LA and tried to get a job. And if I didn't get a job, I wasn't going to be able to pay that money back. It was, you know, and then I got lucky. I'd send things out to people thinking that they would read them, and of course they wouldn't. Finally, I decided that, okay, I'll try to get into television, because I sort of know what you have to do. You have to write a spec. This was at a point when there were a lot of sitcoms. You write a spec sitcom, you get an agent to read it, and then it doesn't matter if you have any experience, if they like your script, they hire you. So that seemed ideal to me. So I did that, and eventually got an agent, and I got a job, and then I worked in TV for 7 years, at the same time writing screenplays, hoping to get into this. And then, you know, Spike Jonze found Being John Malkovich and decided to direct it, and so then I kind of left TV and did this.
Where do ideas tend to come to you? Some people say in the shower. Some people say they'll take long car rides or whatever. Where do you find that most of your ideas have come to you?
I walk a lot. Yeah. I would say that, you know, I walk every day, and I carry a notebook with me when I walk, and I jot down things, and I would say that, you know, that's probably, if there's a place, that's where it is.
Where do you actually write?
I write at a desk.
But I imagine, but where is that desk?
That desk is in an office. This is fascinating.
And that office is in
your
house?
That office is my house.
Okay, all right. No, well, that's what, because, you know, so I guess you're able to be productive in your own home. You don't have to, like, get out.
No, I go out every day. Actually, my habit or my process is to go out every day to a coffee shop. I walk and I think and I write in the coffee shop. Sometimes in my notebook, sometimes I bring a computer, and then I go home, and I like being in an environment. I like being out. It's a little claustrophobic being in the office by myself.
Right. Do you write outlines? In other words, do you like to know where your story or your script is going before you start it?
I prefer not to. It's better not to for me, because I feel like when you're starting out, if you're writing an outline before you've thought about this thing, then you're kind of committing yourself to something you don't yet know. So sometimes, always, I'll come upon something a month into writing that'll change everything. And I like to have I don't want to feel like I'm bound to something that that's preconceived. And so it takes me a long time to write because of that. But it's the way I prefer to write.
And are you writing on a laptop? Are you writing on a typewriter? What's your thing?
I write longhand, or I write on a computer. I go back and forth.
So how long might you write for on a given day? Do you do it? Will you be disciplined and say I'm a 9 to 5 guy, or do you just do it when it strikes? No, I spend most of my time not writing. Most of it, like 96% of the time, I don't write. I stare at the. Well, I look at stuff online, which is a big mistake. It's a habit that I need to break, because that's just terrible. But I just do anything not to write. But it's always in my head, so it's not like I have a reprieve from it. It's always sort of burdensome and waiting there and hovering. And I think in some cases that there is stuff that's churning and happening. The idea of being blocked is something that I've come to terms with as valuable. So it is a real thing, writer's block.
No, I don't think it is, but it is. But it feels like it is.
Yeah.
I think stuff is happening when you don't know it's happening. At least for me, and I think the time needs to be taken. At least for me, I can only speak for me, and that's the thing about like people who want to follow in my footsteps. As you said, it's like there's no footsteps. This is what happened to work for me, and it could as well have not worked for me.